Welcome back to Judged by the Cover. I'm here today to talk about a readathon that I'm doing for the month of May. I am participating in a readathon from May 1st to May 31st, and it's called Escape the Readathon. It's put on by a booktuber named Books with Lexie. I will link her channel below as well as the video that explains this readathon. This isn't the first year that she has put on Escape the Readathon, but it's the first year that I'm participating in it. And this year specifically is called Escape Spacecraft Bowser 4. There are 4 different teams and we could choose one of them. So astronomers, botanists, scientists, and engineers. And based on the descriptions of what each one is, I decided I'm an engineer. So I picked to be on the engineers team. Basically, she described them as practical and adaptable, and I feel like that very much describes me. So anyways, basically you start in a room and then you have the option to go into one of 2 rooms, and there's a prompt for each of those rooms, and then your team will read as many books as they can for that prompt and reach a goal that we don't know. And once they reach that goal, then I guess Lexie will let us know, and then we can move on to that room. And the goal is to find our way to an escape pod so we can escape. There's a Discord that we joined that has so much information in it and a very active chat, but I'm glad that the Discord is there because it helps me want to participate and helps me understand how to do it. She mentioned that there's a task for each room as you're going to unlock the next room or go into the next one or whatever, separate from the prompt, but I'm not quite sure I understand that yet, so we'll have to see what happens when my team gets out of the first room. There are 14 locations and each one has a prompt. When your team is deciding to go into whatever room they're going into next, they get to vote and the majority wins, which I think is really cool because it's like we get to choose not only what we're reading, but like the prompt that we're going to read for. And I also really love like escape room vibes and locked room situations, so I'm very excited for this one. I also feel like since the prompts are maybe a little bit more broad, and also we get to choose a lot more and read a lot of books for the same prompt, that this would be a lot easier for a more wide range of readers to participate in. So I am going to just briefly mention the 14 places, like 14 room options that we could go into and their corresponding prompt. I might post updates as I go through this, but I can't say where my team has gone or where my team is going because I don't want to give anything away to any other teams. After that, then I'll talk about my TBR. I have a short TBR. I picked 10 books, so that other than that, if I need to cater anything more specifically to a prompt, I can do that. But most of what's on my TBR is able to fit into multiple prompts. I'm also a heavy mood reader, so we'll see if this happens, if I actually get through this TBR, because lest we forget, I haven't unwrapped a book for that shelf unwrap challenge that I started on January 1st. And I also have multiple books on this TBR that were on my March TBR. Okay, I'm just going to read the 14 places with their prompts and then talk about each of my books and how it might fit into some of these. So there's a command center, prompt top 3 tropes. There's Winston's Lounge, which is a booktube find. There's Tech Center, which is blurbed by a loved author. Cafe Nova, which is different than your last genre. Medbay, which is isolated setting. Damage Control Center, which is a setting you've not been to. Greenhouse, which is randomized. Engine Room, which is an anti-rec. Research Center, which is borrowed. Living Quarters, which is author's name is below the title. Sleeping Lodge, which is a book friend loves. Facility Management, which is underhyped. And Gym, latest released. And finally, Escape Pod. The cover matches a host's thumbnail. And now we'll talk about my TBR. Of the books on my TBR, there's 3 that I own. And then there are 5 physical books that I have checked out from the library right now. And then I have 2 audiobooks that I have checked out from the library right now. Of the 2 audiobooks and the 5 library books, all of those would fit into the borrowed prompt. So that's easy. My audios are Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, which is in the Throne of Glass series. And Same Backward as Forward by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is in like the Inheritance Games world. For specifically like what the covers look like or anything related to that, I would have to check like physical versions, or check Goodreads, I guess, for the audio books that I'm reading. Also, side note, I know page count doesn't exactly matter, but you can get like a bonus if in the end you haven't finished a book towards the prompt and you just want to submit it for page count. But I'm going to track my page count anyways so that I know how many pages I've read in the month of May. If we happen to come across different than last genre, that will obviously also be very much catered to exactly what I've just read and what I'm going to read. For my library books that are physical, we have Cursed Cruise by Victoria Fulton and Faith McLaren. Not very long. I could honestly finish it in one night, and I have already read 20 pages, but it's not sucking me in. So there's that. And then I am also 20% through Crown of Midnight already. And when I'm filming this, it's May 2nd. I think technically Cursed Cruise would also fit into isolated setting. It's also one of my top 3 tropes. I have been on a cruise, so it's not a setting that I haven't been to. Borrowed, yeah. Then Frightmares by Eva V. Gibson. So her name is below the title on that, so it would count for that one. Also my top 3 tropes, probably. I don't really know what it's about, so I don't know if it's an isolated setting yet. Definitely Borrowed. Dude. Then Flight 171 by Amy Christine Parker. Her name is also below the title. And I don't know if a plane counts as an isolated setting. It's not necessarily like out in the wilderness, I guess. Then now that I think about that, is a cruise an isolated setting? I'm not really sure. I've been on a plane, so it's not a setting I haven't been to. But it is Borrowed. Seems like I would fill a lot of that prompt. Then we have We Were Warned by Chelsea Achasso. I don't know. I don't know what it's about. I know it's a thriller. Her name's below the title of the book, so we would fit for that one. I honestly am very like flimsy or flexible, whatever you want to call it, with my TBR. So I don't always adhere to it strictly. And also I don't always check if it fits with the prompts because I'm such a heavy mood reader, and I also don't want to plan it so hard that I feel like I'm like checking things off of a list, like a chore. So if a friend loves it, I don't know. If it's underhyped, I don't know. If it's a person's latest release, I don't know. If it is blurbed by an author I love or anything like that, I wouldn't know until I get to the point where I would, if I have that prompt, then I'll look up that book. But I do have some booktube finds, and that is one of my next ones. The last one that I've checked out from the library, which is Starside by Alex Astor. Her name is also below the title on that one, so it would work. And I just talked about 4 thrillers, and this is like fantasy, so probably fantasy, maybe dystopian. I honestly don't know super much about it, but that would be different than my last genre if I've been reading a ton of thrillers. Then on to the 3 books that I own. We have Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. Her name is below the title on that. Wow, it's a lot of books like that. Alchemized by Sin Lin Yu. And now, you know, that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I've picked some mega big books, and this readathon isn't necessarily how many pages you read. You don't get points for that necessarily. So the smaller the book, possibly the better, because then I could finish more books in that prompt. But alas, this is on my May TBR. And then finally, another big one, House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas, that I also own. The last readathon I did, I read 17 books. So I feel like I should be able to read these 10 and then some. And all of them could fit into at least one of the prompts, if not more. So I think I just need to see what prompt we're at, read a book for that, and then when I finish that book, if we're still on that prompt, keep going in that area. And then when we move on to another prompt, see what falls into that out of these books. Maybe I'll do updates throughout the month. Maybe you'll only hear from me at the end of the month to see how it's gone. But I have not been in a teamed readathon where my team won. So I'd love to change that this time. Well, thank you for watching, and we hope you go out there and judge books by the cover.